14,
12,
13,
11.
Are you bringing
9,
it in?
8,
And we're back.
7.
A,
And we're back.
B,
live?
And Stubby's on the mic.
C,
Greg,
Live?
Are we live?
you're bringing us
D.
back, dude.
Yeah, are we live?
E.
As in live video and everything?
F,
Okay, it's all working now. All right.
G,
Cool.
Sorry about the end of that
H.
first half, guys.
We're too legit. We're too
Yeah.
legit to
Too
quit.
legit. Okay. Sorry about the end of that first half. It got a little loose in here. Everybody rolled in. Things got weird when pizza showed up. and
Pizza
whatnot,
Man
so
showed up.
Yeah.
Apologize for that. Anyway, right now we are waiting for Brandon wants to do his taste test that he's got coming in. Apparently they're finishing it up out in the other room. Do we have a ETA on the food?
Yo, we got an ETA on the food.
soon.
Coming right now. Okay,
I
so
see him over there.
Brandon's going to have to lead
they're-
this because I'm not really sure what he's got going on. It's a
They're-
blind
they're-
tasting of
they're
some sort.
really, really trying hard with all this spray cheese. I'm just saying.
We don't know anything about that.
Oh,
But we are back.
This is great.
Oh, look at that. That's fantastic.
this is great.
We're going to have this taste test first, and then we're going to get back into talking to the guys from Wild Acre
All right.
about some beers and water treatments and whatnot. So.
Is that a Twinkie?
Yeah, you can have.
Yeah,
one,
we don't
but
hold
you
up
gotta
to
get out of my
Twinkies.
chair.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is my chair
I'm
now.
diabetic. I think my blood sugar's low.
All right, so you want to start probably with the cheese and cracker side, and the
Cheese-
beer goes specifically with.
Can
Cheese
I
and cracker side.
Can I set the Twinkie on fire? Or?
If you want.
It'll burn for 6 years.
Exactly.
All right. What are we doing?
Okay, Brandon,
So,
My God,
are
dude,
we on
what
the
the
air
hell?
here?
we are on
Yes.
air. We're live.
all right, so we're about to do a good pairing with Mike and Sandra. So I thought I'd bring a crappy pairing for us here. This is the Apocalypse beer pairing that we're having right now.
Apocalypse.
The Apocalypse beer pairing. So I want you to drink the one with the cheese cracker and eat the cheese cracker. And then I want you to drink the one with the Hostess, the Twinkie, and eat the Twinkie. And then we're going to talk about what exactly it is because it's,
What is this? Because there's no aroma.
we'll
to
talk
this
about it.
beer.
We'll talk about it.
So we drink.
I didn't get a damn Twinkie.
We drink. Wait, drink.
I asked if you wanted one, and you said no.
Oh, man, it's just a plain saltine? Come on, man. Triscuits go better with...
It's
Already-
actually not as awful as
I already ate a damn
As
Twinkie.
I
and
thought.
Not very good.
Eat, drink, think. We'll talk in a second here.
It'll be good radio. I love some squeezed cheese, though.
See, so what do you
There's
what do you
something
what do you
special
what,
and chalky
Brandon,
about it.
what is the pairing here? You're eating
We're
a
gonna
Twinkie.
we're gonna tell you here in a second.
You're drinking this crappy beer.
Before we
That's
get into it,
PBR. It's got to be like something.
So you're drinking PBR and a Twinkie.
That's two
It's
different
the, only,
beers.
it's the only food.
that's actually really not bad at all.
It's the only food you can find at the
When you find
convenience
out
store.
what I've done here, you're going to be surprised. I just want you to drink the beer.
Well, I'm not getting it to experience.
Okay, so I've
all
had the
this,
cracker
you
and
know.
that beer. Do you now want me to proceed to the Twinkie and that beer?
Yes.
Okay.
So then drink the other beer.
Yeah. So, I'll
And did you try this at home?
preface this by saying that I don't know how to say the word preface.
Parfait? What the hell is parfait? It's like sous vide where I can't even fucking spell it,
This
right?
is like a freaking like.
So I'll preface this by saying that we're going to celebrate the fact that tomorrow is my 21st anniversary with my
What?
wonderful wife who puts up with all my home brewing bullshit
Oh, I thought you were gonna
by
say
drinking a couple of beers that are 21 years old, along with our food.
You're
What?
20.
You know,
First
really?
anniversary of losing your virginity.
that first one, I can taste some age on for damn sure.
So both of these beers,
the second one still
I
has
didn't get any
esters in it.
beer. What the hell?
I asked if you wanted it, and you said you didn't want
No,
it.
I didn't want the damn Twinkie. I wanted the beer.
There's plenty of beer
You're,
left.
you're you're not getting the full experience, Stubby.
So with the cracker and the squeezed cheese, there was a Budweiser, and with the Twinkie, there's a Miller Lite, and both of
Okay.
these beers are in a couple of months going to be 22 years old. They've been sitting.
The beers are 20 years old.
They're 22 years old. Yeah, they've been sitting in the
come
fridge
on.
in my office
Yes.
for 22 years,
Why?
and so that's what I brought.
Still consumable.
Why?
Yeah.
Right?
Are you serious?
I'm
These
dead
beers
serious.
are 20 years old.
Mike, grab one of the beers with the date on the bottom. Yeah, here we go. He's got it.
Oh, that's
So the bottom of this Budweiser here says April 25th, 1997.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Are you
And the
serious?
Miller Lite just has a number on it.
Yeah, the
so-
Miller Lights don't have a date, but I think they've been in there the same amount of time. These have been in the fridge in my office for almost 22 years. So I thought it would be an interesting apocalypse beer pairing. We're going to eat canned cheese and saltines, Twinkies, you know,
20-year-old
food
Budweiser.
that never goes bad.
Which one went with the Twinkie?
The Twinkie is Miller,
Miller
Lite.
Lite.
No, okay.
You know, that's
So
more
the
of a
Budweiser
dessert
is the one
beer.
that
I like the
Budweiser tastes
Budweiser.
old. It tastes papery and for
This beer
sure.
tastes like
It does taste old, but I will submit
add a
that you would
saltine.
never have guessed it was 22 years old.
No, I wouldn't.
no. I would have
I thought it pretty much
6, 8,
sucked,
10
but,
months old. You know,
Had I not
It
seen the
tastes like
can,
really
Well, it's-
sour
But
cider.
I think the
I'm just
can gives its age away. I mean that can screams 90s
Yeah.
like Cowboys champions.
What's funny is the
like,
Budweiser does not.
no,
It looks
Budweiser
like
has
a
been the
regular
same
old
can.
Budweiser
Yeah,
can.
that looks like Bud.
There's minor changes,
Dude,
but you have to
Budweiser
know.
cans don't look like that no more.
How old are the Twinkies?
They do it.
I don't know. It's been ages since I drank Budweiser, so I wouldn't have
You know,
a clue.
the
The
Mil-
food is brand new. I promise you.
the
food
Miller
is brand
Lite,
Are you sure the Twinkies could be 20 years
Yeah,
old?
new. They
Sounds
do
weird.
taste like it, don't they?
the
They've
Miller
gone way
Lite, I
downhill.
think it's metallic-y. You know, it's very aged. The Budweiser, I mean, it's old, but it doesn't taste like Jesus. What
it
is that? What am I
certainly
drinking?
does not taste 22 years old, does it?
Dude.
And you know, you had an unsolicited question on here about how long can beer age, which is
22 years.
really funny. Like, this guy's
see,
asking about a Yingling Black and Tan, and I'm like, dude, that might be good for like
Until the second
3 or
coming.
4 months. Apparently, Budweiser's good for your
Oh
lifetime.
no, Black and Tans. I've had a 5-6-year-old one.
A
It's-
Yingling,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. It tastes not much different. Rolled on.
Now,
Still
I mean, I
pretty-
guess when
pretty
they're-
funky.
when they
It's important to
pasteurize
note
it.
that the entire time these have been refrigerated. They've been in a refrigerator for 22 years.
That's
so
cool. Hey, that Twinkie was delicious.
I was really.
Hit the
that,
spot,
I think
man.
the Twinkie was the most disappointing part to me. I thought, man, this Twinkie tastes 22 years old.
It's all
Yeah,
like
I got it.
rubbery. It tastes
Yeah,
all
it doesn't
rubbery.
taste like they used to
It's
taste
like-
when I was a
right,
kid.
they
It's
used
like
to be so
candy
delicious.
corn. It's like all ancient. It's
Right.
the same Twinkies and candy corn and shit. Been around for 50
They just
years.
keep repackaging it.
Yeah, why not?
Right?
Fill
See,
that one back up. Pump some air.
They
in
got
it,
a,
looks
they got
good.
a whole field of like Twinkie dicks. Like
It's one of those.
All
I was rather
papery.
impressed when
Yeah.
Brandon told me, it's a 22-year-old Miller Lite, and then I thought about it. So you mean in 22 years nobody's finally said, "Fuck it, I'm cleaning out the fridge and throwing away the 15,
That's
18,
actually what
20-year-old
led to
beer"?
this.
Like,
That's actually what led to this because I've always thought it'd be fun to bring those in and do something with that, but I've never done it. And then someone in the office is like, "We have to get rid of these beers." And they've been sitting here for 22 years, and I thought, "Oh, wait a minute! I'm going to grab them and I'm going to take them and
I
do
have
this."
the perfect chance to get
It
rid
really
of those
makes me
beers.
want to
You
buy
got the
some
right
beer
guy
and
here.
save it
Jesus
for another
Christ,
20 years.
dude! Do you realize I was like 23 years old when I?
yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I'm fucking ancient now, dude.
That's funny
I'm saying.
because this Budweiser was like 2 weeks after my oldest daughter was born.
That Budweiser's right
All
when
right,
I turned
Grandma.
21.
Now you're a
Now
grandfather.
she has a kid now. Yeah, I'm a grandfather.
Well, and
So-
judging by the date, let's see, 97. I very well might have bought a case of this Budweiser at 16, 17 years old.
that's crazy,
so,
dude. Just think how hairy the vaginas were back then.
I can tell you for a fact that they were in pretty good shape, dude.
Yeah. All right,
We
yeah,
miss
I
you,
know, right?
Jared.
They're in pretty good shape. Enough
by
for
the
me to
90s,
make
women had learned razors work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
But I will say those aren't nearly as bad. If I had told you I was going to bring you 22-year-old beer, you'd have thought it was going to be a lot worse than that, right? I mean,
Right.
Way worse.
Yeah.
it-
For some reason, I'm still finishing off this.
They make
I
what
think
they
Miller
make.
Lite. Like,
yeah, I
it's
drank
not
all
that
of mine, and
bad.
I'm going
I
to
drank
drink
my shit
Austin.
too. Yeah, I drank it too. Yeah.
They
Me
make
too.
what they make, dude. It's
For some
quality
reason,
product.
Austin left.
Booted.
Yeah.
That was a good move.
Probably passed out in the bathroom or
Yeah,
something.
if you can't tell that some folks here needed some food.
That Budweiser's actually not bad.
I thought they were
Yeah.
in pretty good shape. It was the Miller. The Miller was kind of like little,
Metallic.
yeah, tart.
Probably because of the corn syrup.
Right.
Miller's
They
the
were
worst.
probably still using corn then.
I bet. Yeah, I know. Back then,
Hadn't
that's a dope ass
graduated yet.
can though. That Budweiser can.
Now we're all going to
can
get
have it
sick
if you
from
want.
this.
I've seen that
Yeah.
faded
We're all
in the
gonna
field
die.
a few
Yeah,
times.
you know what?
Man, that was about the time when I was drinking Bud Dry. I I'm just saying.
We were drinking Bud Ice back
Bud
then.
Ice, yeah, we
Bud
talked
Ice.
about
Oh, we were
this.
talking
Bud
about that
Dry,
earlier, yeah.
dude.
Sorry, is
Bud
Bud
Dry.
Sorry,
Bud
we weren't
Dry
as
just like
evolved
the
as you
past
were.
coming back? What? Now that we're doing dry beers again, like is that just the past coming back around?
Bud Dry.
That is
Bud
true.
Dry,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
We just have fancier names for it. It's a brute now.
It's like hairstyles and hats, dude. You know, it's like curved bill and flat bill. You know what I mean? Like it's coming
For
back.
real?
Fuck flat bill.
That's what I'm saying.
You
Dude.
know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Yeah.
We all look silly in them.
They look bad in the 80s. They look bad now.
They made them in the 80s?
Trucker hats.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
They've
I
made
didn't-
hats for a long
Dude,
time.
I never wore a damn flat bill in the 80s. What the
What do you wear?
Those
You
big
got fucking beautiful hair, Stubby. Look at that shit.
Looks like he's got a man bun
I
right now.
keep thinking he's got a man bun.
Yeah, he's a freaking Dapper Dan man, dude.
Oh,
He's
look
just
at
like
that shit.
he's like
Oh, fuck you, man. I'm
greases
Dapper
that
Dan.
shit up, dude.
Dude, I'm a fuck
All
man,
right.
man.
All
Shut
right.
the
Jared
fuck
had a
up.
good comment earlier about
All
the
right.
fact
No
that he looked like
goddamn diaper,
he looked
man.
like Kurt Russell from the Santa Claus movie.
Oh yeah,
so.
you see that shit on
All right,
Netflix.
all right.
On
All right, let's calm this down a little bit. We do have an actual beer pairing that's going to be good. That's why I wanted to do this first.
I like fuck, goddammit.
I thought we were going to talk.
I'm a Dapper Dan man.
Thought we were going to talk brewing water and recipe development with the
we have
Wild
a lot
Acre
of- we
guys,
have a
and
lot of
then
that.
do the food
Okay,
pairing.
all right,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Let's do
We're
that.
gonna talk while
So
we
let's
eat.
get into some actual brewing stuff here when talking about water treatment, and then we're going to get into some recipe development and try and collab
Yeah,
on
we
a
left
recipe
off
with you
talking
guys.
about the guys' beers, what's been going on there. and
Beards
what they-
or
beers, and that we've been going on there for a while. What they've had going for their main lineup, and now that they have the pilot system. But every beer that they brew, as far as I understand it, every beer that they brew is one of those. You've built it all. All the water is built for all of your beers, correct?
Basically,
I mean,
yeah.
it's RO water to start.
So you're starting with RO water?
We have RO filtration.
Okay.
Our brewing water we blend back with city water, actually.
Okay.
But we
Because
get
see,
that
when I've been there, Jared showed me the RO system, and then we talked about it a few times, and it's like, man, it sounds like you're building all of them. Then, so.
I mean, basically, yeah. Even when we blend back with city water, like I've got a water test of that blended water pulled up on my phone.
That's just another way of building it up. Basically, is just taking
Yeah.
known.
I mean, I don't know if y'all.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have ever like drank RO water or anything.
Yeah.
That shit's gross.
Yeah.
Like it
What?
doesn't. It doesn't
Plain.
taste good. It
Oh, I
doesn't,
like
it doesn't taste like
RO
water.
Yeah. I think it's more watery than other water.
I just,
Is
there's
it-
nothing
Moist,
there.
It's more moist.
Is it,
More
does it have a little bit more moisture?
Got more moistness.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, moist
Yeah.
water. Yeah,
No,
that's
but
what I use
actually,
for my
that's
brewing.
that's what I used to do when I was brewing. When I still was on Fort Worth water, is if I was brewing a pilsner or something like that, I would just cut it in half with distilled water, basically, just to knock down the minerals and make it softer.
That's how we brewed all of our initial pilot batches.
Okay.
As we were developing recipes back 3.5 years ago.
Jesus,
we
Stubby.
just bought
Someone needs to
RO
take
water
that.
from Lowe's and
Oh, really?
Sandra,
and
Okay.
we
blended
go
it
slap Stubby.
with city water for that. But now we have we actually blend back to a certain conductivity, which is more or less dissolved solids in your water.
Okay.
Right.
So we're blending pure RO water with a certain percentage of city water that changes with time as the city water changes.
Are you doing that for all beers and then building up from there?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
So we start with a certain base beer in our brewing liquor or base water that we acidify, and we're actually adding our salts in the kettle.
So can you talk about the philosophy behind doing that rather than just starting from RO water? You felt like you were soft enough to do the pilsner that you do and that kind of thing by blending like that, and then you work up in hardness from there for maybe doing like the Tarantula Hawk and all that.
Tarantula hop.
Yes.
Well, you know
Thank you.
that's
Yes.
actually in that book that Stubby doesn't like us mentioning. That Classic Styles book.
The Tarantula?
They talk about on some of the pilsners and some of the lighter lagers. He recommends doing RO water and whatever water you have, doing it at a 50-50 split, just to get a lot softer profile.
So we actually end up with a lot less than 50% city water going in.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just with that baseline that we build, because it is the same baseline for our pilsner or any other beer,
This
and
is
we
what I
build
think
we
about
build
that.
from that.
Okay.
It changes though. I mean, like he was saying earlier, like with the seasons and,
I'm gonna
and
come
what's
take
going
that.
on with the water, conductivity, kind of like
we have a meter,
So you're testing it on site. You're not sending it to a lab. You have your own lab. That
on
you
site.
test.
Well, it's conductivity on site, which is like.
Which is measuring total dissolved solids, basically.
Total dissolved solids, dissolved ions.
Yeah.
And you're able to get a breakdown of each ion?
No, not
or
exactly.
You're just going with, okay, it's this conductivity based on. Okay.
We're at a certain range.
It's rough.
Sure.
But it's not that rough.
Okay.
And then from there, we get that water, that blend tested periodically, and honestly, those numbers have come back basically the same every time.
Mm-hmm. I found that Fort Worth water was pretty consistent when I had it tested. Yeah. It really kind of fell within a range, which was really nice about Fort Worth water. It was really easy to work with.
Yeah. Well, we test our blended water.
Oh, you tested blended, okay.
Yeah, so we test our blend from our RO and our city water.
So talk about what you do with it from different styles. So you've got a Pilsner you've got a Bock, you've got a red IPA, a double red IPA, a double IPA, right? I mean, you've got the full range there. What are you doing for those different beers from that base blend that you're using?
So really, we're just adding 2 salts. We're adding calcium chloride and calcium sulfate.
Okay, so you're just trying to change the sulfate to chloride ratio,
right?
Depending on whether you want to accentuate the malt or the hops, right?
So we're controlling the sulfate to chloride ratio, and we're also really dialing in our calcium concentration.
Okay.
So we're actually, with the water we're starting with, and with the salts that we're adding, we're able to hit our calcium numbers really solidly, and our sulfate to chloride ratios. We're hitting the ratio, but we're not necessarily getting quite to that sulfate or chloride level that, maybe you would necessarily design to. But based off the salts you can add and the water that we have.
So sulfate to chloride, that we know that has to do with malt or hops. What about the calcium, the overall calcium content? What is it? Why do you want it higher sometimes and lower other?
Calcium, a lot of people are looking at it in their mash. We actually have great mash efficiency, and we're adding salts in the kettle. We're adding salts after the mash, so that calcium number is really not doing anything for us there. But in the boil, you're looking at coagulating your proteins a little bit better, getting them to drop out in our whirlpool, and later on, you get some yeast health benefits from getting proper
we got
calcium
Blue
levels.
Bonnet judging in the background. I'm sorry.
I thought y'all were breaking glasses back there.
Well, that's something that in the new Beersmith for homebrewing, and I mean, I guess you could also use it as large as you wanted, because Beersmith will do recipes as large as you need. But you can match water profiles, and you can tell it that I'm adding it in the mash and then the boil, and that's what I'm doing, because I have a larger hot liquor tank than I actually need, and so I'm not going to use whatever volume it says in my sparge. I fill my hot liquor tank because I need it to cover my coil.
Your Hermes coil,
yeah. So then
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So then when I go into the boil kettle, that's where I add those boil salts. So much like you guys are doing,
right? And
so that's something we've never really talked about in water additions before. We have always talked about mash additions in terms of your sulfate to chloride ratio and all that kind of thing. But calcium is really important for yeast health. Right?
Absolutely.
And also the clarity of the beer, too, right?
Right. It really helps with that.
So
that
adding it in the boil, that's not something we've ever really talked about before.
And that's what you were alluding to is helping the proteins.
Right. That's in the boil is, I don't really see all that much evidence for a lot more benefit for calcium outside of those proteins in the boil. And then later on down the line in the fermenter. But in the boil itself, that's where you're really looking at seeing proteins precipitating out of your boil.
Okay,
that makes sense.
I like your approach to this so far. It's different than the
we've
hit it so far. Before now, I think it's different when you're talking about.
So my background, I went to University of Alabama for biochemistry, and really got straight into professional brewing. I started at it was a tiny brewery in Alabama.
They have
What's it
breweries in Alabama?
We do. We actually, dude, the Alabama brewer scene. It's hidden, but it's there and it's legit.
What's the name of the brewery you're at?
I worked at Druid City Brewing.
Is it too legit?
Druid
to quit?
City? Okay.
Yeah, Druid
I think
City.
I've had a beer from there.
I hope
Traveling
so.
through there, I've had some. I think.
It's on 20 as you're going through. 20 crosses the whole
on your
damn
way
country.
to Florida,
or anywhere.
If you want to anywhere, if you want to go to Atlanta from here, you're going to take 20. But it was the first brewery in Tuscaloosa, and I got started there. out of school, actually dropped out of college to start brewing. So if you're listening at home, kids, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
If you're gonna drop out, at least have a goal, right?
Have a secondary option.
Yeah.
Get
Hey,
it-
so we just cracked open one of our local breweries.
What's that?
Did you guys get some of this?
Some what?
Which
Or did
one?
Austin just disappear with a whole crowler.
He's
No,
over
he's
here
down here on the
wrestling.
ground.
Yeah, he's on the ground. He's literally on the ground.
He's molesting Jared, and then he was thrown on the
Oh,
ground.
and I don't think he knows what's going on.
If you talk about like our relationship, like me and Zach, we're
Work
co-bre-
wives.
Yeah,
You
we're
and
yeah
Zach?
work wives, co-brewers, but anything like Zach, like
Your brother wives.
I mean brewer wise, it's cool.
We're not
It's like we
Mormon,
have a great
sorry.
working relationship. He brings a lot of science background to
Are you
it.
talking about Zach Ragsdale?
No, me.
Oh,
This,
that's
this
Zach.
is Zach right here.
Man,
Jeez.
I was gonna say
Pay
that guy
attention.
that brings his ball sack out everywhere.
man, if you guys could ruin a
Ah.
podcast, you've done it.
Yeah.
It's their podcast. They can do what they want with it.
yeah. Anyways, yeah. So I mean, like Zach and I have a really good working relationship. He brings a lot of like his like science knowledge and like background.
And you
to
bring the bag
brewing.
of dicks.
And a bag of dicks. You know, whatever, man. I don't know. I just like we have a great working relationship. Man, fuck all you guys.
So
I'm tired of this
let me
shit.
ask you something. When you're talking about the additions in the boil versus in the mash, why wouldn't you just add the calcium also in the mash and knowing it's going to carry forward into the boil?
So we used to.
Okay.
It's a pain in the ass.
Does it just not? It's tough to get it in solution in the mash. Is what you're talking about,
The
or-
way we're adding it, I don't personally, and I'm sure a lot of people can disagree with me for really good reasons. I don't really like adding anything to the mash to begin with, acidifying in the mash or anything like that. Especially on our scale, when you're adding as much as we are, it's not going to be uniform, no matter
Right.
what you
That
do.
makes sense. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I get that.
And I don't want to add acid to the mash that's not acidified water as just straight undiluted acid or salts or anything like that,
Well,
because
that
it's not
is
going to
one
end
thing.
up throughout the mash.
You know,
It just
I have
won't.
to acidulate my
Your math.
my mash, and I've always found that actually using acidulated malt as opposed to putting lactic acid in is much more effective because you can. It is more homogeneous.
Or if
when
you
do
can
it that way.
acidify your strike water or something like that, like I find that that's just a way more successful way of doing it. So when we first got started at the brewery, batches like 1 through 20, we were injecting salts into our liquor tanks to create special water for every brew. But the realities of a production schedule means that you can't dump that water.
And
That's,
then,
that's
yeah,
expensive water.
Yeah, you're not starting
Right.
over with a fresh vat of water. Yeah.
Exactly. I
Salts
mean,
weren't dissolving. Like
you were having salts left over in the bottoms of your liquor tanks, and so if you can't dissolve those salts effectively into your brewing liquor, because we were adding it into the brewing liquor, and then we were also adding a kettle addition, and realistically on the production scale and the way we're doing it.
So
putting it in the
calcium,
kettle-
sulfates, and chlorides, those don't have anything to do with the actual mash portion. Those have a lot more to do with the fermentation and
the calcium's useful in the mash,
Bitterness
absolutely.
okay.
But you're really looking for that without the addition. That's the whole reason you're doing RO and blending.
Yeah, and we've got, I have to say, we have incredible water to start with. I mean, you start with RO, and
Right.
you're going to, and I think Fort Worth water's great. Our water is exceptionally soft. I was just looking at the report that I haven't looked at in a while. We're less than 1 parts per million on carbonate.
Yeah, I mean,
it's insane how soft we can get our water and how little stuff we can have in it.
We get customers coming in. Well, I don't know if I should use the water. I'm like, well, do you like the way it tastes? Okay, filter it with a carbon filter and use it. And if you're in Fort Worth, how many breweries in Fort Worth have won how many awards using
Right.
Fort Worth water or some variation of Fort
Right.
Worth water?
The only thing I found with Fort Worth water is that if I wanted good hoppy beer, I did have to make water
You do,
adjustments
you
to
do.
accentuate
Absolutely.
the
Harden
hops.
the
It was
water,
great
yeah.
for malty beer.
Absolutely.
For hoppy beer, it did need some adjustments to it. And it's, again, we've talked about this before when we've talked about water additions and whether or not you should get into doing it. And it's a lot more of take a really good beer and make it an exceptional beer kind of thing. Like if you have pretty good water to start with, you don't necessarily have to mess with it. But if you think you've got your beer right about where you want it, but you'd really like the hops to be brighter and stand out more, maybe you should look at messing with your water or that kind of thing. And I think that's the case with the Fort Worth water.
We were talking about just like water in general, and like I guess is try not to make it too complicated.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like you can sit there and you think about water. It's like, man, this is so fucking complicated, and it's like there's just like simple things that we do at the brewery to adjust our recipes, and we're not overcomplicating it. We're the beer's good, you know.
And I think that really is true. Getting into water adjustments and that kind of thing is intimidating, and eventually you come to realize you don't have to do a whole lot, just a little bit here and there,
right?
To kind of just put that edge that you want on it, and it doesn't have to be so intimidating. It doesn't have to be major adjustments to your water or anything like that. Just a little bit here and there.
And I really believe it's a game of diminishing returns. You can sink hundreds of hours into your water chemistry, and your beer's not going to change that much. I mean, once you start doing the basics and you start doing some additions, you run it through a carbon filter, you do those basic things, you can get 80% of the way there.
Now that's
on
probably
a homebrew
dependent
scale.
on style, though, right? Like
Certainly,
Yeah.
and you should do your research and smartly add salts.
Mm-hmm.
But you know,
Yeah, if you're making a Pilsner versus an IPA, West Coast, Northeast, or something like that, it's a very different beer, obviously.
yeah, and
So,
and build your beer and take some time. But I think people who spend hundreds of hours and a lot of money, and it's not necessarily.
What I like from
the way
this
to
is
go.
that I'm getting the approach that you're taking is a lot more laid back, and it's solid, but a lot more laid back than when you're worried about every single addition that you're making by gram and whatever else that you're really measuring it out, and like there's a lot of that it's not going to matter that much.
Well, and
You're carrying, like what you said. There's the two main culprits that
You're absolutely right, but also we weigh out our salts to the nearest 0.1 gram.
Well, you guys, I'm not saying you have to.
But
what you're doing, but what the good thing here is not necessarily stressing as much when you are starting with some good sources, especially a mixed source, because anybody could get distilled and then mix back with something that's a decent source if they know it is.
And that's really a great place to start if you're talking about
even if it's
working
spring
with water
water
chemistry. The first Pilsners that I did, I thought, man, I know that the water I have is not great for Pilsners, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I just diluted it, and it just made a difference. It was really good,
exactly.
and that's actually a really good way to start with water adjustments. Is just finding out what you've got and then kind of diluting it from there.
Well, it's and Zach and I talked about this before we started. You don't have to get real techie with this. We've gotten that way, and some of us do it for fun, but
it is real techie. I mean,
right.
honestly.
But what they're really looking at is, like he said, they're looking at the sulfite ratio to chloride ratio, and we know what those two are going to accentuate. And for them, and you can take this all the way down to your home brewing. If you want to accentuate hops, use the right chemical. We're going to do calcium sulfate. If you want to accentuate that malt, it's the calcium chloride.
Right,
and you have to worry about that ratio, but.
And then from there, the other things really have more to do with yeast health.
Yeah,
than anything.
everything else, they're needed, but.
And don't screw up your beer over adding or under.
Right.
Because you can over add.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely over add.
Don't just assume, it's a half tablespoon every time. You need to know what you're doing, but those are the two main things that you need to worry about is the calcium sulfate and the calcium chloride.
I think you see a lot of recipes like especially like looking through like these homebrew magazines, you're seeing like salt additions, but you're seeing salt additions for different water profiles.
Wildly irresponsible.
Yeah.
To put
Yeah,
salt additions in
totally
a
is.
recipe.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We know what we're doing. We know what calcium numbers we want to hit, sulfate numbers, and chloride numbers.
But that's because you know where you're starting from too.
Oh, totally.
It's another one of those things. Like I see acidulated malt in recipes, and I think if you're going to publish a recipe, you got to take that out of there. You just got to convert
Unless
it to
they're
your regular
specifically
base malt.
saying, I started this. Everybody starts with RO water.
Right.
Nothing water.
If you're going with RO, and you would need to put that in a recipe, start with RO, build this profile of salts, then this grain bill, etc.
This is also
this
one
is
of
off my well out of my property.
Yeah.
right. Well, that's where I'm at.
Right. For you.
I had my well water analyzed, and I just put it in Beersmith, and that's one of the things I love about Beersmith 3. The water tool on it is so easy to use now. where you're building your recipe, and it's actually part of the recipe for that particular beer. You tell it, here's my water. I want to match this profile, whether you're doing it by what kind of beer it is or what water in the world you want to match or whatever. And it actually just adds the salt additions into your recipe. So they're part of your recipe printout instead of having to, figure out every time. And it's really nice the way it integrates it in. It makes it very simple and very easy to use. It's a lot less intimidating because, for a lot of homebrewers, water is very intimidating.
I think one of,
I don't think it has
another
to
big
be.
thing too is
And it doesn't have to be. You're right. Yeah.
well, like reducing your pH on your strike water, not your strike water and your sparge water. We do that at the brewery. Like we bring our hot and cold water tanks down to 5.5, like 5.5 pH.
And that makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
in
It does.
your-
It helps
your
with
mash
extraction.
efficiency.
Yeah.
When you were asking about calcium in the mash, I think that pH is
Really
over the hill
yeah.
way more important than a
Right.
calcium level.
Oh, I
in-
would
in-
Your
agree with you.
efficiency would be
100%
much
on that,
more
yeah.
beneficial
Yeah.
with the right pH than it would with any of the.
It's like we were
additions,
calculating our
mash efficiency.
Yeah.
is- We're over 99% on mash.
It's crazy.
efficiency.
It's stupid. And
which
so,
is
like I did the
perfect
math.
for a brewery.
Well,
You spend less money brewing beer.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you don't have to use as
Right.
much grain.
And on a homebrew level, what it's really, I think homebrewers get caught up a lot of times in trying to hit the highest mash efficiency they can.
Yeah.
On a commercial level, that's important because that's money. On a homebrew level, that's not as important. What's more important is hit the same one every time.
Yeah.
So, like, my efficiency is like 75%, which is nothing to write home about. But if I hit 75% every time,
yeah.
I know exactly what beer I'm brewing.
Exactly.
My beers are within a point or two every single time, and on a homebrew level, that's pretty good. If I can
Consistency's
get
the
the
name of the
volumes and the gravities I want every single time, then I know there's some predictability to how my beer is going to come
Yeah.
out. Mash pH, I think, plays a huge part in that. I've learned that I need 5% of my total grain bill to be acidulated malt.
Oh, really? It was always like 3% hit it for me when I was at home, but
I've got really alkaline water, so
I noticed like the biggest difference when I was brewing at home was when I was acidifying my sparge water. I added lactic acid. We had phosphoric at the brewery, but I mean it just made a huge difference in my beers. And I think like the last 6 months I was working at the shop, brewing all the time, and I feel like I got consistent, and consistency comes from I think acidifying your sparge water, and then
and when it comes to is your homebrew going to be really good beer, I think consistency plays a much larger part in that than anything else, because you can really dial it in and get it good if you know that certain parts of the process are going to be the same every time.
right.
If they're all over the place, you're throwing a dart.
You just can't
you're
learn if
always,
you're not
yeah.
consistent. And
Right.
that's something that, obviously we want to make good beer every beer we make, but the most important thing is on a production scale on if you get batch to batch consistency, but also learning and developing recipes the way we do.
Right.
If you can't be consistent, then we couldn't operate in this industry.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
you're 100%
Full
right.
consistency.
Especially these days, as many breweries have popped up, it's a much more competitive market now.
Yeah.
And boy, you better be consistent.
If you have a bad batch, someone's going to email you and
Yes.
let you know.
Right, yeah.
Well,
It
and
ha- it
it's
happens.
it's
Or
going to
show up and
spread.
throw the cans at you.
Yeah.
I mean,
It'll spread through
Right.
social media. It's going to
Like a
spread
stoning.
a lot faster than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You have to hit it.
We had a batch of beer that we knew was slightly different than another one, and we had a guy who is a avid fan of this beer email the president of our company and say, "Hey, this beer was different this time," and he came to us and said, "What's up?" And it was a little bit different. Dude called us out on it, and he said he didn't like it as much that time.
We knew it was different too.
We knew ahead
We
of
knew.
time.
You want to tell him about it?
No.
no.
I don't want to talk about it. It's my fault. I'll take the blame for it, but I don't want to talk about what I did.
But speaking of making bad batches of beer, why don't we make a batch
didn't
of beer?
say
I did
bad.
not say a bad
He
batch
didn't
of
say
beer.
bad. He
It's
said
Okay,
different.
let's make a
was
different
different.
batch of
What
beer.
are you thinking about?
So we need to make.
Well, why don't we do
need to
the-
work together and make a batch.
Why don't we
of
do this
something
beer
that's
that you've been
something
talking about?
Oh, agave lime.
Yeah, let's do this agave lime.
All
Okay.
right,
So
that
we're
sounds
I
good.
didn't hear it.
We're
so
working on
tell
that
me
right
about
now.
it.
We're working on it right now.
It's
Cool.
a recipe that.
Oh,
is it-
they're
is it-
already working on that for their brewery.
Yeah, so
Let's do
y'all,
it with
y'all
them.
are going to be part of it.
Oh, okay, great.
down.
Oh, that's awesome.
Jared made
so-
that decision.
And this is from the owner that wants this. Was that right?
So this will be actually an actual beer. It'll be a tier 2 seasonal.
Tier 2 seasonal. So this is on our brand calendar for
stainless.
an agave lime beer that we're going to be putting out 90 barrels of at some point. I don't have the calendar and I don't care to look at it.
So what's the base beer?
What
to
are you
this
looking
agave
for in
lime
this beer?
That's
Other than agave and lime.
So
that is the direction we got, and we can take it where we
Anywhere
like.
we can go. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the benefit of being the head brewer is they say, hey, here's the marketing phrases and here's what we want a beer to be, and then they say make it.
Now
Okay, so marketing. What I mean, are you talking about a light beer of some kind, like bright and clear?
We're looking
Or are you talking
for
about something else?
between
that's just
6
weird
and 7%.
Okay.
Golden-ish in color,
Yeah.
agave and lime included / prominent, and from there,
Any other characteristics that can or can't be in there?
I would say like a light hop, like it's probably like 10 IBUs.
And
I'll give it more
Are
than
you
that.
talking
Go to
a lager
15.
or ale?
ale.
It's gonna be ale, but
Excellent.
fermented at lower temperatures.
Okay. Yeah. Keep it nice and clean.
So you could use a coal schist or something like that.
We're gonna use
We're gonna
SO5.
use USO5.
So we're gonna use
Okay.
one of our house strains. So we manage how many strains do we manage?
Well, now that we're getting a Belgian in, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I think we're at
Yeah.
5 strains.
Which this Belgian Golden.
as
So
he's
still,
currently
still
Awesome.
pretty
Awesome.
manageable
Awesome.
with
Yeah, I'm
5.
glad you like it.
5, yeah. So Jared and I are doing all the yeast management basically ourselves. So we're currently training up other staff members who are, if they're listening, they're kicking ass.
Yeah.
But
If there's- yeah.
currently,
Of course,
we're
they're listening.
Yeah.
no, they're not.
Everybody listens.
We're currently splitting some brewing duties and
Yeah.
a lot of yeast management duties together, as well as trying
Right.
to run the production
Well.
area.
Use management's a big part of that.
It
So,
is. It
yeah.
takes up.
If you guys don't have a full-on lab that's doing it for you, that's a big job.
We are the lab.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
all
so
right, so
so we're talking. You talking about Pilsner or 2-row base? You think?
We'd probably 2-row. So we've kind of gone off on this like Pilsner kick, and we're spending a lot of money like using Pilsner bagged malt.
Ask Subby.
We save we save money out of our silo because we have 2-row in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be it needs to be a 2-row base.
Personally, I would think a 2-row would be better for it anyway. Give it if you're
Yeah,
going to
cleaner
talk
and
about
drier.
a lighter golden
Yeah.
beer, I think maybe a little bit more of a substantial base malt flavor,
Right.
I think would go well with that. So 6 to 7%, 2-row base. There's not going to be a lot of specialty malt in this. Are you talking about like maybe some Vienna or some Munich? Or
So so I had 2 different routes I wanted to go with this. I wanted to go like the kind of like the light lager route, and then like
Mhm.
maybe like a kind of like a blonde ale route. So I wanted to go either like 2-row agave and rice, or and some light caramel, or go 2-row caramel Vienna and agave.
personally,
got what-
I like the addition of a Vienna. In there.
Vienna
I
does
think-
sound good, but the rice struck me as the first thing I thought of too. But the
With-
Vienna does sound nice.
Yeah.
I think the Vienna, the flavor would be a nice bridge between the base malt and the agave. Agave has a very distinct flavor to it, and anything I think that you can do to blend that into the malt flavor would be good, personally.
So and the thing with agave too, like it's agave syrup, so it's like sucrose and glucose. It's simple sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
are you
but it's
getting
got a
any-
pretty distinct flavor to it, I think.
And I was gonna say, hey, let's add that in the whirlpool.
Mhm.
If we're gonna get any character out of that, and we need to add lime too.
Yeah, I would.
Well, lime too. The one thing with lime, I'd say, I mean, obviously lime peel and lime. What is it?
Lime zest.
Motueka. Is it Motueka? That's lime. Really lime
That's
forward.
limey.
So hop wise, we're in a bit of a bind with our hop contracts. So there's a little restriction on that, and we're trying to use hops that we already use in some of our other beers.
So what do you have available?
Yeah.
Santium, Saphir.
I don't know. Do we want to
Fuck,
use
what's
some
that?
noble hops? We've got
I was thinking all the ones we use for
Hallertau?
Billy. Not Hallertau. I don't want to use Hallertau.
No.
No.
Wanted to use Santium. Is it Sapphire or Sapphire? I don't know what it is.
I think it's Saphir, yeah.
It's Sapphire.
Unless you're Bex, and then it's Sapphire.
What do we bitter Billy with?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I should know this.
All right.
but-
We've only brewed it like 100 times.
That sounds like a kid's song. What do we bitter Billy with?
Right.
Sapphire Santa.
Anyways, yeah. So like to kind of
3 times over.
we're looking at. So one of the things is like just kind of being promoted and being head brewers. We're trying to figure out like hop contracts, which is new to us. So I think we're over contracted on a lot of hops. So we're trying to find like.
Well, what kind of hop
ways we can
character are
use
you
hop.
looking for out of this? I mean,
Like
obviously you want the
like,
lime
honestly,
and the
like-
agave to kind of take the
Yeah.
front seat in
Right.
this with a little bit of malt to prop it
So
up.
it's gonna be like a light,
So it's,
hop
and you're
character,
talking
just-
10 IBUs. I mean, you're
We're
really
not
just
looking
talking
for a
bittering,
character.
right?
Yeah.
pretty much.
Are
You
you,
can-
are
you
you
can
open
use
to
your-
juice, lime juice as well? I mean,
We've
that's-
discussed it.
I mean, lime juice. That
Yeah.
essentially ends up being your finishing.
At that point,
Yeah.
we're going to drop our pH quite a bit.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, it doesn't
I
take
think
that
you
much
can get-
lime juice to show up.
No, and I think you can get pretty close to like Autrevez sort of
Oh, yeah.
qualities
Yeah.
if you add a significant amount of lime juice and
Right.
ferment that out.
So I think you can bitter with Saphir pretty easily. That's, if I remember right, that's about a 7 or 8%.
No, I think it's like 2
Let
something.
me see what.
Saphir? No,
Our- the one we have
Saphir's
now-
higher than that.
Saphir is like
I
2.8.
think ours is like
it's
2.8 or
2.8. It's
2.1.
2.8.
It's been our last 2
Really?
batches.
I just
Man,
saw
you
it
must
because I was
do
looking
that.
for a sub for fucking Billy the other day.
Just the
And I had to know when I did the fucking
the Beersmith default is 3.5. I'm gonna look
Yeah,
up. What
it's
we
Really?
have on
Oh,
our
I thought it was
website.
a lot higher than
Yeah,
that.
we're
our-
at,
our
we're at
last
2.8.
batch was
so
2.8.
Santium. Did I say Santium? Santium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Santium.
Santium is like 7 something.
Santium's a higher one.
That'd
yeah.
probably be the way to go then.
Yeah.
If you're only wanting 10, 12 IBUs, you don't want something that you're going to have to add a bunch to it because you're not looking for any hop character. You're just looking to balance out the
Right.
We've got
We
got
also
Saphir
boil
at
for 75
3.5.
minutes.
Yeah. 75-minute boil. We usually like to kind of spread our hop additions out too. So
Okay.
we usually do like a 75, 30, and then a knockout.
Well, with a knockout, you're looking for
Yeah.
flavor. So are you looking for hop flavor
Yeah, a
in
little
this?
bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Throw
Well,
some in there.
I would think maybe the Saphir flavor would go well with this,
That'd be good.
personally. You know, and if anybody is looking for what Saphir tastes like, isn't the Pivo pills, Firestone Walker Pivo pills is dry hopped with Saphir.
Oh,
Saphir.
okay.
Yeah, so if you
Yeah,
want-
it's Hallertau.
pretty certain.
Hallertau Saphir.
yeah. So if you want an idea what Saphir tastes like, the
Yeah.
Pivo pills is a good, wonderful beer. One of my very
Right.
favorites. Yeah. So I would think maybe an early edition with Santium just to get some IBUs in there, and maybe a Whirlpool with some Saphir.
Yeah, we've started actually before we had never really done all that many Whirlpool hops or late edition hops. We're starting to experiment with that on our big system, and I mean, I like where we've gotten on that.
We've
so
kind of
far.
moved to so we've been more traditional, I guess, with a lot of our beers, and like we have a set like hopping schedule with a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's if it's an IPA, there's 4 editions. If it's a normal beer like Blonde or Billy, it's 3 editions, and it's at set times. Now we're kind of looking at where we're doing more late hopping, like the IPA that's coming out next week, Rec Room. It's late hopping and double dry hopped. So we're kind of changing some things a little bit.
You know, that's weird because, like Miller, they triple hop theirs. So
It's weird.
That's one
yeah,
more
and it's
than-
like I feel like we triple hop like 4 of our beers.
But do you brew it the hard way?
It feels hard sometimes.
Not anymore.
Well,
I mean,
they're-
ever since we got promoted, it hasn't been the hard way.
We have people for that,
Yeah,
and that
we got
means
They
it's not
they
that
do it
hard.
the hard way. You guys don't.
Certainly.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, we still do it the hard way.
That's
We're
some
out
bullshit
there
right there.
busting our ass.
Who's that dude at the end of the table? I mean, he's like being quiet and
Hey, did you like that beer?
he's taking up the whole camera over there.
Gold Strong. Are you drunk?
James.
it's
Lalonde.
phenolic, isn't it? It's got some spice phenols to it, doesn't it? It's nice. I like that.
Hey, James.
Sorry,
it-
we're
it-
talking
no.
to somebody who's off mic, so you only get to hear us saying, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
great
yeah,
radio. Here we go. We got James Lalonde here.
Not even
The other
half
half
the
of Final Gravity Radio coming soon from the
Yeah.
Come and Brew It Network.
No, thank you. And I think it fits a lot of the characteristics of the Golden Strong.
Right.
But I think it fits a lot of the characteristics of a triple at the same point in time.
Yes.
Sits in the middle because you've got in the Golden Strongs you want a lot more of that big fruity notes, and you want the spices more reserved to your triples, and not that either one can't go a little bit either direction.
Right.
I get a good bit of the sweet candy notes that I expect in the Golden Strong, and then that little extra peppery phenol just makes it different. I'm not saying it makes it bad. I just I'm a real purist on the Golden Strong, so that's one of my.
Well, we
favorites.
were talking about so this is our next kind of. We're just kind of skipping over to another subject here or another. Whatever.
Another
It's all right.
beer.
It's all right.
Yeah. So this is a pilot batch of our Golden Strong, and we're actually gonna brew 90 barrels of it. And
Next
I kind of
week.
felt the same way. Like you could have classified it. We could have classified it as a triple. The cans are already ordered.
So therefore, it has been decided.
And it's,
Yeah.
No, it
You know
probably
what, though?
I think
mean,
it's still within range.
Yeah.
sticking a name on it. You're better off calling it a Golden Strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
'cause it
too
has
much
some
of the
residual
candy sweetness.
Oh, really?
And so that sweetness is going to keep it better, and that
Yeah.
if you're going to put a name on it. But then you've got something unique because you've got some different character than I would have expected in like a Tremens. Tremens has none of that phenols. They've got so much of that fruit. So you got just looking at a different Golden Strong that's very enjoyable.
Tell them what
I mean,
your
if
late
you
hop
if we
bill
went
is.
to like Duvel, like our can design is very similar to like Duvel's like bottle.
Yeah.
I think Duvel is like really dry to me. And
It
I
is really dry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Oh
and I
my
don't
God.
think it's got much of the spicy phenols to
Yeah.
it, but I think that
It's
it's
very
one of those
effervescent,
things
though.
that you can drift into that territory a little bit, and as long as you still have that super dry character that doesn't have the sweetness to it, that you're not drifting into the triple category as
so
much.
good.
And
No. Like I said, it's going to stand out as a little bit different than some of the others, but it's a well-made example. I enjoy it.
It's the beauty of professional brewing too.
Yeah,
Is
you
you're
can do
not
what you want.
submitting this to Blue Bonnet for somebody to
I'm
pick
not-
it
I know,
apart.
exactly.
You're selling
Right.
it to the masses, and you know it's perfectly okay for that, and it's a really excellently brewed beer. I think it tastes great.
When you guys start talking about all these different beers and you're like doubles and triples and deuces, don't you think of Gene Simmons? You're like, bow, ba-da-dum, bow, bow. Yet your man is working hard. He's worth a deuce.
No.
Bow, ba-da-dum, bow, bow. No, I'm just saying.
That's
Not at all.
literally never happened to me before.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to interject there.
Not at all.
That was not funny at all, right?
No, it wasn't. Yeah. You're
So-
right.
But
I'll plead the fifth.
man, if you're working hard, you deserve a deuce, right?
I
I don't know
guess.
what you're
I
talking
mean,
about.
I
You're
guess.
talking about
I don't
No
know.
one knew how to answer that.
You guys are
Yeah.
all too young. God damn it.
Sorry.
No, I just hate Kiss because they're a terrible band and
Yeah.
their songs are stupid and I hate them, and so
But your man,
I'm not
if you're a
familiar with
man
what
and
you're
he's
talking
working-
about.
Oh my God! Come on, man. You know that song.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
because
we
I
all
have-
know the song stuff. Yes, we know the song. We don't know the song while you're singing it, but we know the song.
Bum, ba-da-dum, bum, bum. Oh yeah, they're gonna get dinged now because I'm so close to Kiss. You know.
Okay, there you go.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
that's going to happen. All right.
ASCAP is going to call you out, right?
Yeah.
All right,
YouTube
Kurt Russell.
strikes.
Let's steal this truck back on the road.
Okay, so let's go back to the base malt real quick here. Are you talking about adding some Vienna or anything like that into it, or are you just going to go straight to row? Or?
Where is Vienna?
Vienna?
He's not here.
No, we were talking about no, we can go any direction
Christ.
you want to go.
Yeah, what do
Thing
you
was
want to do?
the base is going to be 2-row.
Right.
So if you want to go, I wanted to go either light lager like kind of route, or go more blonde.
Well,
route.
we are.
After
I
he
figure
told
since it's
you.
going to be an ale, it should probably be more towards the blonde route, right?
And so then you're looking at either some Vienna or a very, very light, a very light.
Caramel, like
Caramel.
like a C10 or something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, what
We-
exactly
we've
what
got
I
the-
said.
we've
I
got
said
the 3 and the
C10.
5.
This is my original thought. Was 2-row Vienna C10,
Okay.
and at least 10% agave syrup.
Okay.
For
Okay. I
Golden
like
and
that.
then-
Strong?
and then
For
lime.
Golden Strong.
No.
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 Oh man.
We got to brew like a.
It's going to be an
The fuck is
agave
it?
lime blonde.
It's a agave lime,
okay.
light colored,
We're gonna call it a
7% beer.
blonde.
We got to meet the
We don't
demands
actually
of the
know what
owner.
we're gonna call
Maybe,
it.
maybe you're not going to call it. For the purposes of our show here, we're going to call it a blonde.
That's fair.
That's cool.
Y'all could call it whatever
Did
you
y'all
want.
get some of this?
Obviously.
No.
No, what is that?
Oh, fuck y'all.
No, wait, hold on. I'm coming.
It's
Dude, this
fucking-
podcast.
it's really
was
great
shit
you
a long
showed
time
up,
ago.
dude.
Like, yeah.
All right.
I mean, I'm just
No,
throwing.
no,
I'm just
I'm
throwing
s-
some numbers in.
No, seriously, y'all should taste some of that.
Like-
Take that. And
No, so he was saying he wanted to target 7%. I think that's kind of hard to do.
7%?
I wanted to. We were talking about like bringing that down to at least 6.
I think personally I would prefer 6%.
Yeah,
like
it's,
6.2 is
it's,
the
it's
number.
hard. It's hard when you work with people that come from distributing, and they're not like beer people, but they're cool people, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of times they like to talk alcohol percentage.
Yeah,
and it's a
exactly.
selling
It-
point for
yeah.
them.
Right? Yeah.
It does
I don't know
sell.
how it tastes, but it's 7%.
Yeah,
Hey, you know what? That's
I want some agave. I want some
Yeah.
lime in there, and I'm like, cool. I want 7%.
That's
I'm
what
like,
I
all right.
do when I go to the beer conventions. Like,
that?
oh, what's the highest alcohol you got?
What-
Can you give me the highest alcohol you got? Oh, what kind of beer you got?
Smile.
Oh, what's the highest alcohol?
I've got my Beersmith open, and I kind of just threw some amounts in there, and I got like 87% two row. I can't read that. 8.7% Vienna and 4.3% Crystal. I got it at 6.1%.
Beersmith
Yeah, I like
calculates
that.
color
I like
for you,
that.
doesn't it?
Yeah, and I got it at 4.9.
Sorry, that was a jab at Jared.
Yeah.
That's just a Jared jab. Yeah.
We the
You
first
guys-
time we brewed a Belgian Golden Strong, it was absolutely not golden, and Jared goes, I didn't calculate color.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it does.
We do all our math by hand right now.
I think there's
If it
something to be
looks
said
good
for
and
that.
tastes good.
Yeah.
It's a great learning experience.
It
I
is.
haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah, I had my laptop stolen at one point and didn't have Beersmith for a while, so I was doing all my math by hand. IBUs are incredibly difficult to do, but the rest of it,
IBUs has been the easiest fucking thing for me, dude.
Jared's not good in math, so it sucks for you. But
Yeah.
See, I've never
Oh,
I've
man.
never calculated the
Exactly.
IBUs.
when you look at the formula to calculate IBUs, it's complicated.
Like I did.
Maybe not for people that aren't.
It's
dumb
a
at
fraction
math
with
like
a
me,
lot
but-
of multiplying on top and bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
I did. I bought designing great beers so I could learn how to do that.
What's
So
our
he
math
no
book?
designing great beers. He does it in gravity units. So we do everything
Yeah.
in Play-Doh and weight.
Right.
So it's a little different.
But I mean,
It's-
it's a similar concept. You're just doing it a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that helped me learn some of the math. I've forgotten it. I have my notes.
The
somewhere,
nice
but-
thing is if you do that and you get a grasp on that math, it helps you do on the fly calculations while you're brewing.
Oh, totally.
And you know, okay, well here's where I'm at in my gravity
Right.
during my runoff, and that kind of now I know about where I'm going to land if I get to the volume I'm looking at and all that. It really helps to be able to do those basic calculations.
Well, this is like me in math in general. It's like I fucking can't stand
yeah,
it.
me.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
And I'm
way.
always like, I go to him because he's fucking great.
It was
at
my
math.
understanding that there would be no.
Yeah,
math.
and I just exactly. And I just go to fucking
Very
Zach.
much so.
And I'm like, I think I calculated that right. And he's like, dude, I've seen you do the math. You're all right. You're doing great. I'm like, okay. I just get fucking self-conscious.
And-
he
but
just
lied to
feels
you,
great
and
about that.
And then he
I
does
know,
it
and then
right,
I just fuck up the beer, and I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever.
But I mean, we do expect people to be able to do like
Yeah.
some bit of math on their own. Like we get between crop years of hops as we're
Right.
as we're prepping hops for a brew. And if those alpha acids change, well, do the math yourself.
better
Dan.
figure
Yeah,
out how
that
to
well,
do it.
that's pretty simple math.
It
Well,
is. It's all pretty. I mean, I don't know. A lot of it's pretty simple.
I feel like that math of those alpha acids really not all that much different from your IBU math. It's
Well, yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah, and that's why I think it's good to kind of exercise that a little bit every now and then. Make yourself do the manual math on it, and
might-
then go to your software also, but just have the ability to do that on the fly math if you want, because there's a lot of times I pull out my calculator in the middle of a brew day just to kind of figure out where I'm at during the sparge or something like that,
Yeah.
just to know am I on track or am I not? You know?
So we actually still we brew to volume. So we're not brewing to gravity.
okay.
So we actually hit our so we're not taking numbers off our.
So you're not a home brewer?
No, what I'm saying is like
No, he's saying he is a home brewer.
home brewer
Oh,
because a
yeah.
lot of home brewer like you brewed a volume, right?
Right. Well,
Like,
I don't, but yeah.
yeah, so we're not brewing a like we're not measuring our gravity and saying, hey, this is where we're at gravity wise. You know, we're gonna adjust from
So
there.
do you
We
change
brewed a
your
volume.
boil length then?
We're just consistent to like what we calculate and where we want to be volume wise.
Most of our
Okay.
fermenters we're double batching into, so you get a little bit of averaging between
Okay,
the two
okay.
batches to begin with. But also our batches aren't they're like not to toot our own horn.
Your
or anything.
processes are consistent enough. You
Our
don't have to worry
batches
too much
yeah.
our
about it.
batches aren't different.
Okay.
We're within typically 0.2 Plato batch to batch.
Oh well, that's pretty damn
so
good.
like
yeah.
nah, screw it.
4 points.
I mean our
That's a
scales
lot less than 4 points.
When they're like specific gravity for us.
No, it's a lot less.
Is
than
it
4
less?
points.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 Plato is 4 points. So 0.2 Plato.
Well,
is,
I heard okay.
Yeah.
I heard 2. I didn't hear the point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not enough to worry about.
Right. That's
Not
pretty
really.
damn close. Yeah.
Don't fucking worry about it, Mike.
Until you get tested by the TABC, then you got to concern
well,
yourself.
and we, getting brand approval, and also for ourselves, we almost brought a sheet with the new. We were talking about nutritional analysis earlier. Get some of our beers nutritional analysis because some retailers that we distribute with, they have to have it. If you have more than 10 chains or 10 locations in your chain, you have to provide nutritional analysis.
That's what the
Oh really?
So
healthcare
actually, a
law.
lot of our beers do have nutritional analyses. They're not printed on the label, but if you go to BJ's or another larger
just like
place,
Bud Light does.
Well, they're very concerned with making
Corn
sure
syrup.
that
Put
they're
corn
being
syrup.
honest with the consumer. That's their main motivation for everything.
sorry, that's
Well,
why
corn
we
sugar?
don't print our recipes. We don't want
Corn
you to know
sugar.
what we put in it.
Where'd Greg
Well,
go?
that's the funny thing in the conversation about that with non-beer people. I've told them, craft beer breweries for a long time have been printing their ingredients on the side of their
On the
cans
can,
and bottles
yeah.
for a long time, just to let people know that more information than the average consumer can even understand. They do it all the time.
You get a lot of breweries that are posting OG and Final Gravities
Right,
on their
yeah,
cans, and it's
right.
like the average consumer gets no information out of that.
Right.
But nerds and brewers, and we get that.
You look fucking tired, James.
No, it's good. I'm just listening in.
like you're falling asleep, dude.
No, I'm just listening in, waiting to get a word in. No, I'm good.
Get a word in, man. You got to jump in.
I think
dude.
it's kind of funny. Like you said, you can put everything out there, every ingredient, all the gravity. We could figure out your recipe as a nerd, and guess what? We're gonna get close, but when we set them side by side, they're not the same beer.
Right.
And that's what professional breweries have learned for so long. Doesn't matter. Here's the recipe. Fine. You're not gonna make the exact same thing. I
Well,
don't
shit.
care who you are.
Pliny.
You
I'll
know.
give you to the percentage our recipes,
Yeah.
and like if you can make the same beer, then
Good
I don't.
for you. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have
that's-
black magic. I don't know
Yeah,
because I
that's-
couldn't
The
reproduce it
recipe
on
for
my
Pliny
system.
has been out there forever.
Oh yeah.
Has anyone ever made Pliny?
Nobody's made
You know?
it to be exactly the same, no
Yeah.
matter what. I mean,
Or even close, as
Even,
far
you
as
know.
I've seen.
that's how it usually goes.
So let's get back to this recipe real quick. So we're talking about 2-row Vienna and C10. We're talking about 6%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And right around 10 IBUs, maybe as high as 12.
Size 12,
10 to
like
12.
size 12 shoe or what?
No, 10 to 12 IBUs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a solid place to be.
Now that 6% is including the addition of some agave, right?
Yeah.
How much agave are you talking about? Do you in terms of like percentage or something like that?
So
you
this is
think
going to
is
take
gonna-
some pilot brewing.
What kind of flavor contribution do you want there to be? From
How much
do you
can you
want
how much
people
can
to
you get?
know?
How much can you get? And that's
That's
the issue.
that's our question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
so
you
it's a-
want people to know
yeah.
there's agave in this?
I don't want to just say this is an agave beer and you take me at my word for it. I want you to taste
I think
it.
you're gonna have
Okay.
a hard time with that. I mean,
Exactly.
It is going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's so delicate. It's going to really ferment out quite a bit. You may even consider a late addition after fermentation just to give you flavor.
and then we're risking
Can
possible
bombs
infection.
and-
Yeah, sure.
So I think on a commercial scale, that's kind of where we're at with that. Is where do we add that simple sugar to where you get some of that characteristic?
Can you not heat that to 180 degrees and then put that in?
Well, we can't.
Yeah, you can
we
come to
can't
the brewery.
heat
You
beer
can come to the brewery
hot,
and do that. No, I'm just. My idea was. I mean, it's still going to ferment out. Was to
Put it
make
in the
it
whirlpool?
a whirlpool edition.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to make a difference. Honestly, I think it's just going to ferment out.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
you know-
afraid of that because and I've had 100% agave. Basically, it was a mead made that way.
Yeah.
And it was so delicate. It was so light, even after fermenting, and that's all that was in there. There was no malt. There was no hops to give it any other different flavor. So it was difficult to get anything out of it other than the sweetness. Now there's a unique flavor there, and you get that unique flavor when you have it in that much concentration. But putting it into a beer, it seems like it's going to be a hell of a challenge.
I drank a lot of
I want you to try
tequila.
it.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah,
And
yeah, give it a try.
I
And
drank a lot of tequila, and that had a lot of.
your best bet is putting it at the end. I'm sitting here and I look at your recipe, and I'm gonna devil's advocate. I don't know why you're putting in the Vienna and the Crystal. If you're wanting to let the agave shine, why are you even putting the other malts in there?
So you're just talking about 100% two-row?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean you're because the Vienna has got that rich toasty note. It's gonna throw something out there fast. Now the little bit of Crystal will help, and there's no doubt because that's gonna give you some of the sweetness that you're gonna expect out of the agave. It's gonna fade itself out anyway. So using that to help balance out the agave that's gonna ferment out makes some sense there. And given that touch, the Vienna, I'm worried unless you keep it really light. Is it going to pull away from your desire of letting the agave shine?
See, my thought on that is I think agave has a really distinct taste to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that putting it in, even at Whirlpool, you're still going to have a lot of flavor carryover from it. And I like the bready, toasty note just a tiny bit that will help prop that up and actually also kind of counteract the sweet, syrupy flavor that is kind of left over, similar to what honey does. Yeah. And kind of balance out that whole flavor profile. That's why I would think the Vienna would be appropriate in there in a small percentage. I mean, we're talking what Mikey? What did you come up with there?
Well, I had it at like 8, and I just kind of changed a little bit. I added in a quick search that agave nectar should be around 34 gravity points, ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just spitballing.
34
what's the
gravity
percentage?
points?
As in like a 1034, like. In Beersmith.
What's the percentage on that on the total grain bill?
That seems like a lot to me.
That's just 3% sugar. So
Yeah.
Yeah, 3% of a 6% beer.
no,
3%,
not
nah.
of the 6%. 3% of what you're putting in there. So if you put in,
I have 83% pale,
Okay,
and
a
I just
6% beer is going to be about what, 1060?
Yeah.
So you're talking.
I've got
1034 of that
That's half of
1060.
that.
Actually, no, I've got
That's over half.
No.
I got 1056 at 5.9% with
Okay.
83% pale, 8% the Irex Crystal Birch, which is a 5, and then a pound of agave.
Can we talk in
What's the
Play-Doh
percent?
so I
Yeah,
can
can you talk
contribute?
percentage
Where'd you
too?
go
Like
with
percentage
Irish
of
Crystal?
like total
8
grain, like grain.
83 pale, 8 crystal, and 8 agave
Yeah.
percent.
So I was talking about like
Percentage
maybe
of
10%.
fermentables,
Yeah.
10% agave-ish.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
and your fermentables out of the agave. It'll read at what 8 Play-Doh at most. So
I don't know.
The-
I'll ask BSG when I
the
order
yeah,
from him.
yeah. you
Well, I
definitely-
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, totally, yeah, but yeah, I mean,
if it's that thin, I didn't realize it was that thin. That's super thin.
I can pull it up real quick.
See what you get.
well,
When I've tried to look for gravity of honey or agave, you can't find it. It's
yeah.
so inconsistent.
Well, they
Yeah.
and they added in the honey consistency is always going to be different. I mean, Beersmith did add honey to
They
the
did add
fermentables.
some in Beersmith
But
3
they do not
because
have-
there's mead.
Yeah, you can do mead and
calculations,
cider
yeah.
now.
This is why we do our calculations by hand.
Absolutely.
So this goes back to the Bud Light thing. We've been working on dextrose in our double IPA, which corn sugar, but you have to do that math by hand to find the way we're doing it to find out the weight of our sugar that we're adding
Sure.
to our boil. working in Play-Doh. And
well, we don't need to come up with an exact recipe.
No.
tonight.
No,
the way
we're
we've done
kinda
this
coming up with
before
eye-
is come up with an idea, and everybody
eyeballs.
goes and makes up a recipe
Disappear, do
based
it,
on
yeah.
those parameters.
also, this is the beauty of a
we're gonna-
pilot
we're gonna
system. We
brew
can
it,
be
bro.
wrong. We can be wrong a couple
We're gonna
times.
brew 2 of them.
Why not?
Maybe
Why not?
three.
Yeah.
As long as
Somebody's
y'all,
got to do it.
as
Right,
long as
yeah.
y'all come to the tap room and help us down 6 kegs of
Oh, we'll do that.
of a beer that we missed on. Like
We'll
as
do
long as
that.
you drink it with us, we're good to try.
Looks like you're coming back for another episode.
Yeah, we're
with
good.
6 half barrels.
It's called a tour. That's why you have a tour.
Oh, it's a tour.
yeah,
is
it's your
yeah.
tour
media,
specialty
media
beer.
tour.
I know all about those.
I did fucking like totally dump my last like Belgian beer.
We have dumped a beer off our pilot system. Not everyone gets to the tap room.
Yeah, how big's your
Um,
pilot system?
4
it's
barrels.
4 barrels,
That's fun.
5 hectoliters.
It's enough. It's enough to get a good, realistic picture of what you're going to make.
Yeah, and-
Exactly.
Because so much a 5-gallon, especially when you start throwing dark malts,
yeah.
doesn't scale at all until you get into a certain range, and then you
Right.
can start playing with it.
We've
So
actually
that's
been
fun.
really pleasantly surprised recently. Actually, this beer that's coming out in the next week, our double dry hopped IPA, is our first beer that we've scaled from entirely developed on this new pilot system
Yes.
to 30 barrel brew house, running the full system.
Was-
I'm extremely happy with it.
It was probably fairly linear, right? I mean, everything.
pretty much-
scaled
pretty
in.
much.
It was pretty easy math getting it
Yeah.
getting it moved up. It doesn't hurt. Both our pilot system and our 30 barrel system are made by the same company.
Yes.
I mean, they're both real high quality pieces of equipment,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
we're pretty happy with that. So we'll get this recipe not even nailed out, but we've got some time to brew it a couple times
Yeah.
and make changes as we go.
Throw it together.
As
See
it-
what happens.
As we were talking about earlier, if you can be consistent, then you can make changes on the fly because you know what was going to happen.
Yes.
Are we done? Is this podcast
that's
over?
the
I mean,
key.
I feel like people just started walking
Let's
out
get
the door.
fuck out of here. This is dumb shit.
I don't know where everybody went.
Everybody
'Cause
left.
they still have the Girl Scout cookie pairing that they
Yeah,
wanted
are we
to
doing
do.
I
that?
don't
I'm not
think
doing
they're going to get that done.
They don't know.
Everybody left, dude. Sorry, y'all.
There's Brandon.
Like for an hour.
We're pretty well done with the podcast, so
Sorry, man, I had to
I
pee.
think we're just gonna. I think I'm just not gonna go anymore.
Okay, well, so we've got a basic framework of what we want to do with the
Yeah,
recipe here.
I think
we
so.
cut the Vienna out then, right?
I cut it out of mine.
You're gonna have to argue with Jared about that when we actually get to the brewery. He wants Vienna.
I mean, I can
Personally, I like the
maybe-
idea of Vienna. I would cut the caramel out before I do the Vienna.
Then brew it and see what happens.
Right. No, that's
That's
the
the
whole
beauty
idea
of
of
it.
this is we're going to have a few different versions of
Yeah.
it. I think I'm going to go with the Vienna, and I'm going to cut the caramel out.
How expensive is agave?
I haven't
I
ordered
probably
it
still
yet,
have
so
some
I don't
from
know.
last year's.
I can
Iron
tell
Mash.
you, nothing's cheap in the scale that we buy it.
No, not at all. But it may be. Let's make a 5-gallon batch and make
No.
sure you like what you're doing.
No,
So I think I'm gonna
Well,
go.
they've got a pretty cool little pilot system.
It only
there,
takes
so.
2.5 weeks. So come on.
nah, 4 barrels are bust, man.
Hey, Dave, make it happen. Like I said, you can always put it on tour. It's your special release.
I have a hard time believing we're gonna make an undrinkable beer that won't
yeah.
sell out in the tap room.
No, I agree with you. there.
Eventually.
Yeah, you're not
Right.
gonna have a problem with that.
And honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing for consumers to see the development process.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
I mean,
Well, that's the beauty of the tap room is that you have a face-to-face. You have a real interface with them. It's not like putting something out there on the shelf and you don't get feedback from people. You get actual feedback from people in a tap room.
oh, absolutely.
You can tell what happens.
And we have
Yeah.
a pretty good sales apparatus out there. Even after we went to distribution, and we have Benny Keith, who has done great for us, selling our beer out there. We have our own in-house salespeople who used to be taking orders, who are going out and doing pint nights and tastings, and they're still meeting with bars and stuff like that. And so we get feedback back that way. But I mean, what's better than I brewed this beer a week and a half ago. I've got 6 kegs of it. Can y'all drink it and tell me what you think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, because you can have. I mean, I went into RAR one day and I happened to be going to see Nick, and he's like, "Hey, come over here and let's do a quick tasting." And it was when they were coming out with the Dagum, and you don't need a whole lot of data. You can give someone a very simple sheet of paper and mark a few questions, or it's minor questions to ask, and you have very good data from Taproom.
Absolutely.
Because your consumers will tell you what they like.
Also, at the end of the week, we take inventory of what moved through the tap room.
Right.
What beer sold the most?
What sold? What didn't sell? Okay, that didn't sell. Clearly, we got to do something with it.
And that's the number one thing. Did it sell?
I mean,
right.
None
we're all
of the
here,
other things matter.
We're all here for good beer, but beer that sells signs my paychecks, and I like getting paid every other week or twice a month. And
money is good. Being able to eat is good.
So please keep buying my beer, and I'll keep making good beer. And
All right, excellent. Well, thanks for coming in, and we're gonna. I think a couple of us are gonna brew different versions of this, and we'd love to have you back in afterwards, and we kind of compare versions and figure out exactly where y'all landed on a couple of these things that we were kind of going back and forth on.
Yeah.
Who won between you and Jared on the Vienna?
Oh, I'm not involved. It's y'all and Jared.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, Jared's gone.
I'm worried about the agave. We've heard word from other breweries that can screw you up pretty quick.
All right. Well, it's getting kind of weird in here, so.
Daddy misses you.
We've had enough beer.
Yes, he does. Gummy Brewery. Gummy Brewery.
Brandon, can you handle it?
All right. So in future episodes, stay tuned for new shows. We've got both Final Gravity and United We Brew coming up. And be sure to send in beers for discussion. We'll have a document for you to download your beer details available soon. We'll be sending out an email to patrons as well. So please keep an eye out for that. We'd really like to have a couple of you all send your beers in to get that show kicked off.
As soon as possible.
And hopefully we can make our collaboration with Wild Acre a reality in the near future too. Again, please be sure to check out our Patreon account at patreon.com/comeandbrewiradio to help support the show. We have $2, $5, $10, and $20 options because every little bit counts. Plus, we want to reward you while you help keep the show going, get involved, and improve it. In fact, we literally reward a lucky Patreon listen with most every live show and have a random drawing from the names of all our $5, $10, and $20 patrons for a prize at the end of every month. We'll be getting caught up on that on the next show because we missed it on this one. We apologize for that, but we will get caught up on the next one. You just have to be a patron for us to get caught up with you. Thanks again for listening to Come and Brew It Radio. Be sure to share with your friends on social media. Give us some ratings on iTunes and Stitcher. And send any ideas or comments to info@texasbrewinginc.com. Also, you can always check in on the Brew Days of the Guys at their Brew Focus Facebook pages at Brew with Stubby, Brew with Brando, Brew with Mikey B, Brew with Chris, Brew with Greg, and at Brew with Nigel. Come and brew it.
Come and brew it.
Come and brew it.
God damn, dude. Like, yeah.